Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It's Monday, August the 18th. I'm Andrew Gagan. The local share market is set to begin the week negatively, with ASX futures off by 0.6%. Global stocks traded near record highs on Friday ahead of talks between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. European shares rose before pulling back, with investors encouraged by positive earnings. On Wall Street, the Dow ended higher after hitting an intraday record high, but the S&P and Nasdaq slipped as mixed data clouded the Federal Reserve's next monetary policy move. Among the Mag 7 stocks, relatively flat, with Meta and Alphabet managing minor gains. Intel shares surged on a report that the Trump administration is in talks for the US government to potentially take a stake in the chip maker. Applied Materials tumbled after the chip equipment maker issued weak fourth quarter forecasts. United Health Group rose sharply after Warren Buffett's company Berkshire Hathaway revealed a new investment in the health insurer, whereas shares of Bank of America fell after Berkshire Hathaway reduced its stake in the bank by more than 4%. Well, President Trump has called his meeting with President Putin extremely productive, but indicated that a deal to end the war in Ukraine has not been finalised. European leaders will join Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky at a meeting with Trump in Washington on Monday. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has said he will announce more tariffs in the coming weeks, saying, "I'll be setting tariffs next week and the week after on steel and, I would say, chips." Well, investors this week will be watching Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where Federal Reserve policymakers gather for their annual policy symposium in search of clues on the path of interest rates. The futures market still expects the Fed to cut rates by a quarter percentage point, at least twice more this year. And in the latest economic data, US retail sales in July rose 0.5%, a slight miss, while consumer sentiment fell and inflation expectations rose to 3.9%. US Treasury yields rose on Friday. The 2-year was at 3.75% and the 10-year rose to 4.3%. And the US dollar slipped, while the Aussie dollar is trading at 65.1 US cents. And Bitcoin is trading at close to 118,000 US dollars. Oil prices fell on Friday ahead of the Trump-Putin talks and the prospect of a possible easing of the sanctions imposed on Russia over the war in Ukraine. Brent crude futures 1.5% lower at $65 a barrel. Copper was up 0.3%, iron ore little change at $101 US dollars a tonne, and gold was steady at around $3,334 an ounce. Ahead locally this week, tomorrow we get Westpac Consumer Confidence Index for August, Wednesday the Employee Earnings Indicator for June, and Thursday the Purchasing Managers Index for August. Overseas, tomorrow US housing starts. Wednesday the Reserve Bank of New Zealand hands down its interest rate decision. China decides on its loan prime rates, and the US Fed releases the minutes from its last meeting. And the Fed's Jackson Hole Economic Symposium gets underway. Thursday sees US PMIs for August, as well as July Conference Board Leading Index and the Philadelphia Fed's Manufacturing Index. Today on the earnings calendar, we expect results from Ampol, A2 Milk, Horizon, BlueScope Steel, Charter Hall Retail REIT, Digico Infrastructure REIT, GPT Group, GWA, Lendlease and O Media. That is your day ahead. See you again tomorrow.